Oh boy, Pierre LeBrun. You know, I didn't really want to go out there and talk about this. This article is like 3 days old. It's from earlier in the week. And I initially didn't really want to dive into it too much until I saw them talk about this on Halford and Bruff in the Morning with Frank Saravelli yesterday here in Vancouver Sports Talk Radio. And I was like, shucks. I guess we have to talk about it, right? New for The Athletic. The NHL trade deadline may not have delivered many fireworks, but it sets up a potentially explosive summer. Some big names, perhaps. Now, you already know the drill. The Athletic is paid for material, so this article, while it is available on the internet, I'm not going to go out there and read it verbatim the way that it's presented. If you have The Athletic, go out there, check out Pierre LeBrun's newest scoop on the potentially explosive summer that we might see in the NHL. And in order to get the gist as to what it is LeBrun is talking about and why I wanted to stay away, let's go out there and read this tweet that was posted by Grok. Because Mrtka went out there and responded to the Athletic tweet, asking Grok to summarize the article. Now, say what you want about Elon's favorite machine, but I will say, this is a very interesting and technically legal way to bypass a paywall. Of course, when you ask Grok to summarize an article, Grok is not regurgitating the entire thing verbatim. It's just spewing out the main points. But Grok does go out there and summarize the meat and potatoes of Pierre LeBrun's piece, which is why things get very interesting when we want to talk about it here in a YouTube video. The NHL trade deadline was quiet, LeBrun wrote. No fireworks, as teams are setting high bars for deals and they held for the summer. It sets up big potential moves. Yossi from the Predators if the rebuild deepens. Trocheck from the Rangers, who is likely out. Erik Karlsson from Pittsburgh and his post-July bonus. Robert Thomas, St. Louis, under the new GM. Meanwhile, there's a slim shot that Brady Tkachuk from the Ottawa Senators gets moved. Auston Matthews, it's going to be 50-50 on direction. For Connor McDavid, it's likelier that he gets moved in 2027, but the playoffs could nudge things forward. Plus RFA extensions for Bedard, etc. There's a busy offseason ahead. And I'll just say this, Grok, say what you want about Grok, but this is exactly what is talked about in the article here, just summarized to a very few brief amount of words. This is exactly why this article was talked about on Halford and Bruff in the Morning yesterday with Frank Saravelli, where the hosts on the broadcast called out the kind of Ponzi scheme that exists for NHL media to hype up future events. Oh, everybody was hyping up the trade deadline. We were going to see some really big names. We were going to see Pettersson, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou. We were going to see a lot of guys get moved. And for the most part, there were some trades. But as we have decided to make videos about over the past few days, I think it's very clear to see that the trade deadline this previous year was not really a good deadline. Like, the biggest name that moved was Nazem Kadri, and that was at the very end of it all. Kent Hughes didn't make a move. Carolina barely did much. You saw Justin Falk go. You saw Braden Shen go. Foligno went. So some captains got a trade. But other than that, this was a really inactive trade deadline period. So as NHL media now, the new thing is to talk about the offseason. Oh, well, all the trades are going to go there. We're going to see the draft, and then we're going to see the free agency. The summer. Oh, you just got to wait until the summer, and then we're going to see some moves. And then the folks on Halford and Bruff, they talked about it like, yeah, I love Pierre LeBrun, but going out there and suggesting that McDavid and Matthews could be on their way out, that is certainly a hot take. Now, let's just talk about these two guys, because I guess there's a conversation to be had about either. Connor McDavid's contract goes on till the end of 2028, so he does have 2 years left at $12.5 million a season. The miracle contract that was after Connor McDavid's 8-year, $12.5 extension post-ELC was set to expiring later this year. Connor McDavid effectively removed himself from the NHL trade market and put himself as a rental, not as a guy that the Oilers are going to be just letting go of and getting rid of, but as a guy who is renting the Oilers, essentially. Connor McDavid didn't sign a prove-it deal. The Oilers signed a prove-it deal for this guy. And it makes sense. I mean, Connor McDavid has 110 points this season in 65 games, on pace for 138 points, which unfortunately would be just second to his career high of 153. McDavid is on another planet, and Pierre LeBrun's inference here is the playoff path for the Edmonton Oilers. If things don't go all too well for this team in the postseason, could that accelerate the likelihood that Connor McDavid asks out and gets his way out of Edmonton? I would assume at the very least he does stick out the next 2 years with this Oilers squad because, hey, he signed the 2-year contract for a reason. Obviously, he's got trade protection. He's going to be able to go wherever it is that he wants if he does get traded. But he signed the deal because he wanted to win with Edmonton. At least, that's the theory here. He wanted to be able to say that, yeah, I gave Edmonton a chance. That's what they wanted. That's what they got. I gave them a 2-year prove-it deal. I'm the best player in the world. Leon Draisaitl is the best number 2 in the world. Evan Bouchard is one of the best defensive offense producers in the world. But the goaltending sucks and the rest of the decor can't do their thing, so I'm going to give you 2 years, Stan Bowman. 2 years to fix everything and to give us a championship after winning back-to-back Western Conference titles and losing in the finals both years in a row to Florida. If the Oilers miss out on the playoffs and if it's embarrassing, could we see Connor McDavid get moved? Maybe. But that's exactly what Pierre LeBrun is going out there and talking about in this article. Meanwhile, for Auston Matthews, it is a 50-50 shot based off of the direction of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Matthews is a guy who's 28 years old, signed on till the end of 2028, making $13.25 million a year. He has always been in a higher dollar amount territory than most NHL stars. And the production, while it's true, he doesn't really live up to that dollar amount, he's still fine. 52 points in 59 games played for the bad Maple Leafs. He's on pace for 66 points and 33 goals, which I think is a shell of his former self. I mean, if Auston Matthews scores 33 goals on the year, it would tie his goal production from last season at 33, which was already the lowest production year that Auston Matthews had ever had goal-scoring-wise in the National Hockey League. He had 41 goals in 52 games in 2021, then 60 goals the year after that, 69 goals 2 seasons after that too, plus 107 total points. Auston Matthews, once upon a time, deserved to be talked about in the greatest echelon of modern-day NHL players. But this time around, things are not looking all too hot. And if the Toronto Maple Leafs decide to fully commit to a rebuild or they want to change the direction so drastically, I guess I can buy the idea that LeBrun is talking about here, that it could make Auston Matthews an available trade chip. Oh, all we got to do is just wait until the summer, and then some big names could be available. I don't think it's that simple, but at the same time, you can really stretch the argument wide and thin to acknowledge that, yeah, maybe McDavid, maybe Matthews do become available. I'd say it's pretty unlikely, but ultimately, the fact that it's not zero, I think, is deserving to be talked about at the end of the day. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Pierre LeBrun's article talking about the NHL trade deadline and the explosivity that we could potentially be greeted to in the summer? Josi, Trocheck, Thomas, Brady Tkachuk, Auston Matthews, Connor McDavid. Which out of these names do you think is most likely to get moved? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.